All right, French enthusiasts, get ready, because today we're diving deep into one of the trickiest parts of French grammar, past participle agreement.
That's right.
But don't worry.
Yeah.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to confidently tackle those exercises in Pronunciator, especially in the library module.
Exactly. And while these rules can seem really complex at first, we're going to untangle them together. We'll uncover the logic behind them and even give you some memory tricks to make them stick.
That's right. And judging from the questions we've gotten, a lot of you are struggling with this fundamental question. When does that past participle actually need to agree?
Right.
And when can we just, let it be?
That's the million-dollar question. It all comes down to recognizing patterns.
Okay.
And the biggest clue is the verb you're using. Avoir or être.
Oh, yeah. Avoir and être.
Those two are back to shake things up.
Okay, so let's unpack this avoir versus être situation.
Okay.
What are the fundamental differences in agreement when using each of them?
So think of it this way. Avoir is pretty chill. It's like, hey, I'm just here to help form the past tense. No need to stress over agreement most of the time.
Okay.
But être is a little more particular. Être wants that past participle to match up with the subject.
So être completely changes the... Okay, I need an example.
Absolutely. So take a classic example like, the woman is gone.
Okay.
In French, that's la femme est partie.
Okay.
You see how partie, the past participle of partir, has that extra E on the end?
Oh, yeah.
It's feminine and singular, just like la femme. That's être working its magic.
Wow. So it's like être is playing matchmaker, making sure everything agrees, grammatically speaking.
Yeah.
But wait, you said avoir is usually laid back. When does it demand agreement?
You've hit on the crucial point. This is where the direct object enters the picture.
Okay.
Here's the golden rule. Agreement only happens when the direct object comes before the verb.
I need an example.
All right. Imagine the sentence. The books that she has read. In French, it's les livres qu'elle a lus.
Hold on, let me process that.
Yeah.
Okay, so les livres are the books, right?
Yep.
So why is lus all plural and masculine?
Because les livres is the direct object in the sentence. It's plural and masculine, and because it comes before the verb lus, the past participle has to agree with it.
Whoa, okay, so one little word swap can totally change the meaning. No wonder it's called agreement. It's like this delicate dance between words.
Exactly, and once you learn the steps, you'll be waltzing through these sentences with no problem. But we've only just begun our deep dive.
I'm ready.
What about those tricky reflexive verbs?
Oh, right, reflexive verbs, those verbs that are all about themselves. Don't they use être? Do they follow the same agreement rules?
Absolutely, and this is where things get a little bit easier. Because reflexive verbs always go with être. The past participle will always agree with the subject pronoun no matter what.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So if we have a sentence like, she got dressed,
okay,
which would be elle s'est habillée. The past participle, habillée, has that extra E because it agrees with elle, she. It's like être is saying, remember, it's all about you.
Precisely. But keep in mind that this is just the start of our deep dive. There are a few more twists and turns waiting for us.
My brain is already overloaded with all these agreement rules, and we're not even done yet.
Nope, not quite.
What about when you have a past participle hanging out with an infinitive?
Yes. Infinitives can be a bit tricky.
They really trip me up.
But there's a logic to it, don't worry. Remember how we said the direct object is like the VIP when it comes to agreement with avoir?
Yeah.
Well, that same rule still applies even when you have an infinitive in the mix.
Okay, I'm going to need another example to really get this. One of those pronunciator style examples?
All right, so let's look at this sentence. The song she wanted to sing.
Okay.
In French, that would be la chanson qu'elle a voulu chanter.
Oh, let's see if I can break this down.
Sure.
Chanter is the infinitive. To sing. But why isn't voulu, the past participle of vouloir, to want, agreeing with la chanson?
That's a great question. The key here is the implied direct object of the infinitive. It's kind of like a ghost object. It's not explicitly there, but it still has an effect.
A ghost object, huh?
Yeah. Think about what she wants to sing. It's la chanson, right?
Oh, right.
So even though it's not written out, la chanson still influences the agreement.
I see. It's like that ghost object is saying, don't forget about me.
Exactly. And because our ghost direct object is hanging out before the past participle, there's no need for agreement.
Wow, this is pretty mind-blowing. It's like you have to play detective with French grammar.
You got it. You have to look for those hidden clues.
Okay, so before we go too deep down the infinitive rabbit hole, can we talk about another tricky area? Negatives.
Of course.
Those pesky no pas constructions. How do they affect agreement?
Negation can definitely throw a wrench in things.
Yeah.
Let's look at a sentence from Pronunciator. She hasn't read the books. In French, that would be, Elle n'a pas lu les livres.
Okay, I see that Lou is saying the same. No agreement. Why is that?
Because in this case, the direct object, les livres, comes after the ne pas. Remember the rule. Direct object before the verb equals agreement. Direct object after, no agreement necessary.
Right. But what if we used a pronoun instead of the books, like she hasn't read them?
Ah, you're thinking like a true grammarian.
Thanks.
If we switch to the pronoun les, the sentence becomes Elle ne les a pas lus. Now the direct object pronoun has moved in front of the verb, and look what happens. Agreement.
Wow, even those little pronouns can make a big difference. French is full of surprises.
It is. Speaking of surprises, what about those verbs that love to break the rules, the irregulars?
Ugh, don't even get me started on irregular verbs.
I know, they can be a real headache.
They really can.
But don't worry, there's a trick to mastering them. The key is to learn to recognize and memorize the most common irregular past participles.
Okay, I'm ready for the challenge. What are some of the most common ones I might see in Pronunciator?
Let's start with a big one. Faire, meaning to do or to make. Its past participle, fait, is super rebellious. It never changes no matter what the gender or number.
So whether we're talking about one feminine noun or a whole bunch of masculine ones, fait stays the same.
Yep, at least it's consistent. Another tricky one is laisser, meaning to leave. Its past participle, laisser, follows the same rule, no changes for gender or number.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. So basically, when in doubt with a new verb, always double check its past participle form.
Absolutely. The pronunciator verb tables are your best friend for those tricky irregulars.
I feel like we've just gone through French grammar boot camp. Can we just take a second and recap all these rules?
Of course. Let's solidify those key takeaways so you're ready to ace those pronunciator exercises.
Okay, so first with avoir, remember the direct object is the key.
Right.
If it comes before the verb, agreement time. If it's after the verb, no need to agree.
Exactly. And don't forget that rule applies even when you have those net pas constructions. The direct object is still calling the shots.
And then we have those rule-breaking irregular verbs like faire and laisser.
Those are important ones to memorize?
They have their own special past participles that don't follow the usual patterns.
Right. But remember, the pronunciator verb tables are there to help you.
Okay, so practice makes perfect.
Right. Absolutely. The more you practice, the more natural these rules will become.
It's like learning a dance. It might feel a little awkward at first.
Yeah.
But with practice, you'll be gliding through those past participle agreements with no problem.
Exactly. But there's still one essential piece of the puzzle we need to uncover before you're truly ready to conquer those pronunciator exercises.
All right, I'm ready. What's this final piece of the puzzle? The one that's going to unlock everything.
It's all about those indirect object pronouns, you know, the ones we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They can be confusing. I know, but here's the good news. They never affect past participle agreement.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously, it doesn't matter where they are in the sentence. They're like those quiet guests at a party. They don't need any special attention.
So all that worry about Louis and Lur was for nothing.
Exactly.
That's such a relief.
Yeah, they might seem important, but when it comes to past participle agreement, they're basically invisible. It all goes back to that direct object. That's the one you got to pay attention to.
So just to recap our whole past participle agreement adventure.
Okay.
With Être, the past participle has to match the subject.
Right.
With Être, it's usually pretty chill unless that direct object sneaks in front of the verb.
Yeah.
And then we have those infinitives that can have those hidden direct objects that can affect the agreement.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and the irregular verbs.
Those are tricky.
Those we just have to memorize. Did I miss anything?
Don't forget about the reflexives. They use être, so their past participles always agree with the subject, remember?
Oh, right. Those reflexive verbs are all about themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I finally got it. I'm ready to tackle those pronunciator exercises and get that certificate.
That's great. Remember, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
The more you use French, the more natural all of this will become.
You know, speaking of practice, I have a little challenge for our listeners. Think back to a time when you came across a really tricky past participle agreement in French.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it was in a book or a song or even one of those pronunciator exercises.
Yeah.
Now that you know all these rules, can you go back and take another look at that sentence?
Uh-huh.
Can you figure out why the agreement is the way it is?
It's like having a secret decoder ring for French grammar. You'll start to see these patterns everywhere, and soon you'll be able to understand even the most complicated sentences.
I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident, and I bet our listeners are too. For those of you who are working towards your pronunciator certificate, keep going.
Yeah.
You're on the right track to mastering this grammar challenge. And don't forget, the Pronunciator Library module is there to help you. It's packed with tons of exercises and resources to help you really understand French grammar.
That's right.
So until next time, keep exploring the amazing world of language.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.